Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Mondays Down South. It's been a little while since, or at least it feels like it's been a little while since we've been together, but not really. I just got done with my escapades of visiting Zebo in Charlotte and now Evan in New York. So a couple of crazy back-to-back weekends with my MDS boys and football. So very excited for today, very excited for this segment. We're halfway through the season. It may be generic, but it's something that we got to give you. So we're coming at you guys today with our power rankings. We're going to give you our top 3 teams right now, and we're going to also give you a 4th little sleeper team. Maybe they don't crack our top 5, but a team that we feel like can, take an upward trajectory and make some noise in the playoffs. So let's tee it up with that. With that being said, though, before we jump right in the segment, Evan, Zach, if you guys got anything you want to say to our wonderful viewers, this would be the time to do it. So go ahead, boys.
Zach?
Nothing for me. I'll turn it over to you.
All right, I got one. Go Dukes!
Yes, sir.
Biggest win in basketball program history over top 5 Michigan State on the road. So had to shout that out. I was up very late. I couldn't come down from that high since it was like an 8:30 game, and it was overtime, so I didn't get over until like past 11, and I was like, oh, so amped. But worth it.
I love it. Was it a back and forth game, or did I knew JMU kind of had the lead at halftime? Did they get up to double digits or so? The reason I ask is because there's nothing more fearsome or anxiety inducing than when your team is up against a huge opponent, but you start to see that lead trickle back down to single digits.
That's what was happening. They came out super hot, like with just tons of energy. They took I think they got the lead up to like 13-15 in the first half. But then we were in horrible foul trouble. That energy was kind of working against us because we were just hacking the crap out of them. So they started to trickle it down. They took a lead in the second half by a few points, and then we kind of managed to force them to overtime with a couple buckets in the last minute, and then just got it done in overtime. So yeah, but we led for 35 out of the 45 minutes or something.
Oh, nice.
So yeah.
Congratulations. I hope you bet the money line there, E. I'm sure you would have made a lot of money if you had.
I did not, but hey, who needs it?
Well, I think that's a great way to tee it up. It's part of why we're recording on a Tuesday today, so maybe you guys get a segment a little bit later than usual. However, with that being said, let's jump right into it. We're going to go with our 3 power rankings. Let's go 1 to 3, just because I think the ones are more obvious. So let's go reverse order this week. So who do we have at number 1 respectively, guys? I'll start with you, Evan. What you got at 1 now that we're halfway through?
For the NFC, I think it's easily the Eagles. There was a little bit of buzz kind of early in the season that, they weren't playing as well, that Jalen was looking a little slow, all kinds of nonsense. And then they're coming off a nice home win against the Cowboys, and they've pretty much answered the call week in and week out, with the exception of that one weird game against the Jets. So I think they're definitively 1 in the NFC for me.
I like that. What about you, Zebo?
Give me the Eagles as well. But what's interesting is that what Evan said is extremely true. Jalen has kind of looked a little slow. The offense has looked a little bit slow, but not as the last couple weeks. Philly's definitely looking where they were last year, and obviously beating Dallas Cowboys at home was a big game there because 2 teams with winning records, divisional matchup, and those are one of those tough games where who's going to separate in November. And it's like that stretch from November 1st all the way to Thanksgiving. That's such a crucial step for teams to kind of take those strides forward. And it's a big difference between being a 6-3 team or a 4-5 team, right? Just in general, for the NFL. But in terms of Philly, they now are 8-1, looking like a complete juggernaut. I know A.J. Brown had some initial issues with not getting the football the first 2 weeks or so. It just seems like they are very much in rhythm and full speed ahead. So, yeah, give me Philly at number 1.
And I'm assuming you both are picking Philly as your number 1 overall, right? Because I know you mentioned NFC, but I'm assuming number 1 overall.
Yeah, I would probably have them number 1 overall as well. But
Because I was looking at it as a just a top three period overall. But I do like the conference breakdowns, so just throwing it out there.
Oh,
But if I'm
might have
looking-
to adjust.
that is okay because my number one overall should not shock you guys at all. I'm still sticking with Kansas City. I know Philly has maybe been a little bit more well-rounded recently. However, in Kansas City had a nice little slow game last week, but they pulled it out and they went into Germany and beat the Miami Dolphins. And after losing to the Broncos a week ago, so I think they course corrected. And even in a game where they didn't even play that great on offense, the reality is Kansas City's defense is good, guys, and I don't think they get enough credit for how good they are. Even though outside of Chris Jones, they don't have a lot of big names. They're young, they're fast, they're dynamic, and they're coached well. So I think the Chiefs are still my number one. And I'll just jump right into my number two because I'm going to pick Eagles number two. So, and I think Zach kind of hit the nail on the head for that one. Like, I think we kind of, and Evan too, I think we kind of slept on them a little more, being like, hey, they're a little bit slower. They maybe because they lost Steichen, whatever it is. And it seems like they've course corrected and they look really good. Huge win versus Cowboys, and maybe we can recover that and recap a little more. But I'm with the Eagles number two. I'll kick it over to you guys from there.
I have Chiefs at number two still. Everything you mentioned, the defense especially has been awesome this year. They have a solid running game with Pacheco. They're figuring out the pass game a little bit, but they got everything there.
Yep.
I would say number two is it's tough. I mean, you could put Detroit at number two. You really could. They beat Kansas City in Kansas City. They've got a better run game than Kansas City, and you just mentioned Pacheco. They're running better play action right now. Travis Kelce's actually statistically having his worst year in the last 5 or 10 years. And if I were to put Kansas City at two, it would be their defense, not their offense this year. Not saying that their offense is bad, but I mean, I'm just saying that there are multiple teams that you can put at number two. And I'm actually, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Chiefs are not number two for me. I don't know if Detroit is. That might be a placeholder. Go ahead and give me Baltimore at number two. When you have a 4-game winning streak, you're playing in the AFC North, which is an extremely challenging division. They are steamrolling teams, similar to what Buffalo normally did last season, where you're seeing a lot of 37-3 games, 31-10 games. Baltimore has struggled, right, the first 2-3 weeks of the season, but ever since they have been on fire. And shout out to OBJ for finally getting his big touchdown this season. Give me Baltimore number two.
I don't hate it. My issue is that Baltimore is a completely different team on the home or at home and on the road. So like they're two big blowouts that they're coming off of with Detroit and Seattle, both incredible wins. Like those are both really good teams, but like show me something on the road. I mean, they've put some real clunkers on tape on the road. Lamar especially.
4-1 on the road. They're 3-1 at home.
Well, but that Pittsburgh game where they scored 17 points.
Yeah, it was bad.
The Arizona game was kind of close. I guess, but I don't know.
I think most of most of the teams we've mentioned have had a bad loss here or there, so I'm not going to hold that against them. I agree that Baltimore's red hot right now. I would say the Detroit win was their most impressive win because obviously they straight up dominated. Their defense looked really good. But for the reasons Evan mentioned is the reason I didn't want to immediately sneak them into my top three because I feel like a lot of people are super high on them after two big wins, but they're both at home, and that also made me realize maybe Detroit wasn't as good as we were making them out to be, although they're a very good team. Maybe they're not a top 5 team the way that they've gotten credit for because clearly they have some defects because just like Baltimore is good at home, Jared Goff is awful on the road. Like they do not know how to win games on the road. So that's why I didn't sneak Baltimore in, but I do respect that take though, Zach, because I think Baltimore's got a lot of momentum, and it would not surprise me if they continue to win. Number 3 for me, and I know I gave kudos to you 2 weeks ago for this, Zach, is I was concerned that the Heisman, Mr. Joey B, was a little too hurt this season, and I was concerned that he wasn't going to come back and be as good as he was the last 2 seasons. Not because I don't think he's capable of it, but because I genuinely thought he was more hurt than he was. But it seems like they figured out a way to kind of get him back into form, and even though he's not like 100% healthy, like he looked like a couple weeks ago, or a couple years ago, he's looking like someone who's back to, at least 90% of himself. So give me the Bengals, dude. I mean, I know the Ravens are like the team that people are focusing on in that division because of these massive wins, but Cincinnati just beat Buffalo last night, Sunday night, and after a couple of really good wins to beat San Francisco, like Cincinnati, the differentiator for me is recently they've beaten those teams that we consider top tier coming into this year. And I think that's something that is really impressive. And I just trust when he's healthy, which was my biggest concern. When Joey B's healthy, I trust him more than most. So I'm picking Cincinnati as my number 3.
Yeah, my issue, if I'm projecting forward, I'm like very confident that by the end of the year they'll be clearly like one of the top probably 3 teams. But I don't know if I can give them that credit right now. I think the whole Burrow injury was like, I don't know, they took that excuse a little too far. So I have to go with Baltimore at 3, given that Baltimore was able to win a head-to-head matchup with them, and is playing lights out now as well. I think the Bills are just flat out not good. So I don't want to give them like that much credit for beating them. But I mean, I'm definitely here for Cincinnati. I just, think I have to leave Baltimore there at 3, given the head-to-head and, both teams playing well.
Well.
Between the 3 for me is between Detroit, Miami, and Kansas City. And I'm going to just continue with my take because Detroit already beat Kansas City. Now, this is like beginning of the year. But then Kansas City beat Miami. So, right, you can kind of get into that complex game there. So if I were to apply it forward, kind of using Evan's logic, I actually think Miami could be the 3rd best team because they're getting a lot of their health back on defense. I know Jalen was back last week. They just lost to Kansas City. But overall, they've got a lot of veterans on the defensive side of the game, whether it's Bradley Chubb, Xavier Howard, Jalen Ramsey and company. But offensively, they're just so hard to plan for. And like schematically, they have individuals going in motion that have no part of the play, which then sets up wide open routes for some of their twin receiver guys, whether it's Waddle, Tyreek Hill. They're going to be eaten constantly. Tua's a well-oiled machine normally under Mike McDaniel. I would say so. I'm going to put Miami at 3. Now, my only hesitation is they are 4-0 at home, 2-3 on the road. Ev's harped on the strategies they do where that Miami Sun is beating down on the opponents. So definitely something to take into consideration in this analysis. But I think from a skill standpoint, they're just going to get more deadly and more in seam throughout this season. So give me Miami at 3. Obviously, KC would be a 4 or 5, maybe behind Detroit.
Well, my biggest issue with that is that I think the Dolphins so far have proven, at least in their modern state, that they can't beat the top tier teams because every time they played one of the better teams, they lose, and like they don't have like a super impressive win in the context of beating a really good team. Like they've absolutely destroyed teams that are worse than them. So credit to them for that. So I'm not trying, and I believe that they'll get there eventually. Like I trust Mike Daniels. They have a great offense. And obviously, like you said, their defense has gotten better. But I feel like not that you're intending it this way, but I feel like it's disrespectful to the Chiefs to have Miami over them after the Chiefs just beat them and have continued to prove that they can beat good teams, even if they had a bad loss against the Broncos. So that's my perspective.
Yeah, I'm glad someone included the Dolphins because this was kind of our argument. That I was prefacing the topic for today off air that I was getting into an argument about this, and obviously it was with a Dolphins fan. I mean, putting them above Baltimore, putting them above probably Cincinnati for me, putting them above Kansas City, putting them above Jacksonville is another one. Is just in like I don't see how you could they haven't proven, as Sai said, in any way, shape, or form that they should be considered on that level. Dating back even multiple years, as I think Sai was getting at. Certainly this year, the split you got to look at here, Zach, not just home away, but like I mentioned, I think last week, their 6 wins are, probably 6 of the 7 worst teams in the NFL. And then their 3 losses are the only good teams they've played. And that's not going to change. So I think they're going to end the year with probably a division win and a great record. But until they prove to me they can beat a good team, I'm not going to buy it by any means, especially with a shaky defense and not a very good offensive line. And I would argue it's just going to get worse as the year goes on, as defenses can adjust, because Steve Spagnuolo had no issue with their offense, allowing only 14 points and creating turnovers in the first half. And Tua's not very good in the cold. I know people hate that narrative, but some guys are legitimately not good in the cold. Peyton Manning wasn't as good in the cold. Drew Brees wasn't as good in the cold. Tua's not as good in the cold from Hawaii.
I will give Zach a little bit of credit, though, because I think I agree with you, Evan, that the contextually, that makes sense given that they haven't beaten those teams, and that's why I didn't put them in my top 3. But the flip side of that also is I do agree with Zach that their defense will get considerably better as the guys that they just got back are getting more in the routine of it. You don't just come back and immediately become like, mid-season form, right? Like these guys are going to need a couple weeks, and they will. The other aspect is, I'm not trying to make this a total excuse, but I will say that when you go to Germany, like I just noticed that every time teams travel abroad to play football, they just play slower, and their teams aren't like their offenses just aren't good. And the Miami Dolphins, even the Chiefs, didn't have a good offensive game. Like they ended up having a 1-possession game after being up by 3 possessions. So the one thing I will say is they're getting A-Chain back. They're back in America. I think with the defense getting a little bit, I think they'll get closer to that top 5 range. I just don't think I would, like you mentioned, I'd put them over the Chiefs or the Ravens right now, just because they haven't beaten a good team yet, like or at least a great team yet.
Yeah, I think that division is perhaps like preseason one of the more overrated divisions in NFL history. The Bills suck. The Dolphins aren't that good, and obviously, I mean, the Jets. I don't think it was as much of a fault of their own, unfortunately, losing Aaron, but. And the Patriots just aren't even that competitive of a team. So I'm not sure any of these teams are that good, to be honest with you. But I think we got to go to 5 with this rankings. What are you? Well. I do like that. I was a big Dolphins guy. And I'm not gonna say I'm still not, but how the
turntables is what I was going to say because it's just so funny, and like obviously I know you came into this year with a different perspective, but I recall a year ago you saying the Bills are going to be undefeated, or you expect them to go undefeated, and now they suck. So I'm laughing a little bit.
I was thinking the same thing.
But I did peg that they wouldn't be very good after seeing the first game or two this year. So
yeah, no, I know. I'm not saying
I've come back around.
I give credit where credit's
due.
due.
The Jets and they scored 16 points. They're a much better team than what you were alluding to.
Agreed.
They didn't start your Commanders 38-3 or something like that the next game.
Are you impressed by that? I mean, I'm not particularly impressed by the
Patriots. I mean,
the Patriots are terrible. We haven't beaten a good year this. I mean, look at the Bills here at Cincinnati, kept it fairly close, not horrible. Chris Godwin, if he was paying attention, the Bills would have lost to the Bucs at home. The Patriots beat the Bills. The refs beat the Bills. But unfortunately, the refs beat the Giants, but the Giants, in all actuality, with Tyrod Taylor, beat the Bills. Jaguars beat them. They did beat the Dolphins game. I'll give them. That was impressive. But
the Dolphins.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think the Dolphins are that good, though. I think these are in hand. And then obviously they lost to the Jets.
Are you wearing a sweater vest right now?
It's my very small JMU basketball jersey.
That's what Zach took away from your Bills take. He was like, I don't like the nonsense coming out of your mouth, so I'm going to focus on your outfit instead.
I thought Ed was reaming the Bills with like a sweater vest, looking professional as anything for this.
Quite the contrary. Quite the contrary.
We got Ditka out here, a couple weeks late on Halloween, I guess. That's hilarious.
Are we going to go to 5? I think we should go to 5.
Let's just do 5. That's fine.
Maybe quickly. Because I want to give... Yeah, I want to give Jacksonville some love. I believe Jacksonville should be in the top 3 in the AFC conversation. I'm going to get them at 4 across the whole NFL. I think they've just played really, really well since a slow start. It's not sexy at all times, and they'll play some close games. But I think it's just a rock solid football team all around.
I think Jacksonville definitely deserves to be in the top 5. I agree. Because that's what else do they need to do to prove that? They've consistently had great games, beating good teams, and even though they're not lighting up scoreboards, they're showing up week in and week out, and they're well rounded. So I actually have them at 4, so I agree with that.
And I'll probably go Bengals 5.
I like that. I would go Ravens 5. So I don't quite have Detroit or the Bills making it.
Zach, who's your 5?
I would say Kansas City. I'll go Detroit, Kansas City.
So no one has San Francisco in their top 5. It's pretty wild stuff.
Well,
I'm not saying it's wrong. Yeah, can't blame them. Who else got left out? No one. I guess that's the Zach got Detroit in there. So
yeah,
I think once they get healthy, though, I will definitely be having San Francisco right back in my top 5. The thing is, though, they need to be fully healthy. You know what I mean? That's the reality, and I'll give you credit where credit's due, Evan. When they're not fully healthy, it's a problem. But if they do get Trent Williams back soon, they're getting Debo back this week. They're getting a couple more pieces back, and I think that'll make a huge difference for them. When they're healthy, they can beat any of those teams. When they're missing 2 guys, they'll lose to all of those teams, it seems like right now. So that's the way I look at it.
Injuries, that's what kind of bothers me about them, though. They're so reliant on these like star players that are so much better than anyone else at their position that no one else can possibly have. That like if they lose a single, even like one of them, they're just not the same team. Which like they don't really have. I mean, I guess it's hard to say because like Trent Williams is like so far and away the best left tackle. Christian McCaffrey, so far and away the best running back. Nick Bosa and now Chase Young on the end. Like Fred.
Their
like
defense,
they just have an absurd amount of like elite talent, but
their defense is gonna eat, dude. I mean, adding Chase Young to that line and with the secondary they already had with the linebackers, Fred Warner. Are you kidding me? You're running Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Fred Warner, and like that middle of the defensive line against teams like that's ruthless. I believe that with the bye and everything like that, they're getting it squared away. Debo comes back, but I agree with you, Evan. But this is probably also why we should gauge the topic of how you would build a team in our next segment. So maybe we'll preface it here because I know we talked about that last week. We might need to do that because this is the exact point of like what my Colts and what your Commanders have tried to do for years, where we tried to build, a great team overall with a great line and everything like that, but we always compromise on quarterback. And the reality is the Niners are in the same situation, except their team overall is way better than any Colts or Commanders teams that we've ever seen. But the thing is, when somebody gets hurt, even in a team that good, it shows the flaws of the quarterback, right? So it's an interesting conversation, I think.
The GM segment. Sleeper teams?
Okay, Ev, you're going to hate me for this one, but I got to throw it out there. I think we cooled on them like crazy because they kept screwing us in bets, and their last 2 wins were against not-so-great teams. But I think it gave them a lot of confidence to be able to go out there, have a couple good games in a row. Their defense has gotten healthier, and as a result, it's gotten better. I believe the Chargers are going to make the playoffs, and I believe they will, assuming they don't play the Chiefs, I believe they'll win a playoff game at this rate. Like, I really believe that their momentum is heading in the right direction, especially as they get healthier and are scheming better. So I actually think the Chargers are a team that a lot of people cooled on that are going to now make a little more noise.
Yeah, they're playing a lot better the last 2 weeks. As it pertains to a playoff spot, I would probably say they make it over Buffalo. And I mean, me saying Pittsburgh's going to make the playoffs is kind of just like me wishing for it to happen. But I think they're definitely a better team than Pittsburgh. Although who won that? Did they play? I don't know. But so they would seem to have a good shot at the playoffs. Mine is I'm going to go with this is a team that's not trending in the right direction, but I'm going to go with the Jets. And the only reason I'm going to say the Jets is because I think Aaron Rodgers, well, he's going to be playing on a recently torn Achilles, but it sounds like Aaron Rodgers is going to be back, maybe like early December. So I think that gives them a chance. If they can win like a game or two. He's saying he's going to be back in like 2 weeks.
That was a joke.
Dude,
I don't think so.
No way.
I don't think so.
That
was not a joke. That was not a joke. You see him out there? Now, granted, he might be a bit of a shell of himself, I will say. But I still believe in the Jets if they can get decent quarterback play. Poor Zach is just having a really rough time. So I'm not going to doubt Aaron Rodgers here if he can get back on the field.
Well,
Which it sounds like he's going to.
I certainly agree with you if Aaron Rodgers comes back. I just don't know that a guy that tore his Achilles.
Oh, he's coming back.
That's one of the worst injuries in sports. Like a torn Achilles, takes a lot. I mean, I realize he's not like Kevin Durant playing NBA, but if he comes back, I don't think it'll be in December. That's insane, dude.
He's coming back. I don't know what he's going to look like. It might not be that pretty, but this dude's coming back.
I hope he does. It's going to be really sad for Zach Wilson and all the moms out there when Aaron Rodgers is better on 1 foot than Zach Wilson's been all year as a guy that's 10 years younger.
Can you imagine how embarrassing that would be? Hey, Zach Wilson, we're 4-4. Obviously, it's because of the defense, but we're actually going to bench you for someone that ruptured their Achilles. Not last season, this season. I mean, if you get benched for someone who ruptured their Achilles tendon, which is the most horrific injury known to mankind, that takes the longest physical therapy to get back in action, and you're just going to stick somebody out there who can barely move in the pocket, I don't know if that's a good decision, but I wouldn't be surprised, Evan. I wouldn't be surprised. And actually, my dark horse team is another quarterback who's gotten injured, or a team that has a quarterback that's got injured. Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. I think that this team is a sleeper because their defense is great. Their offense is fluctuating, and that's why everyone's buying the story. Oh, it's Dallas. They do this every year. I totally get that, but we cannot ignore the fact that they are starching teams. They're losing a couple of games, right? They can't beat the Philadelphia Eagles, but it's hard to beat Philly in Lincoln Financial. So I'm just saying it here, Dallas Cowboys, they are nothing to play with. That defense is an elite unit, even without Trevon Diggs. And Dak Prescott, when he's on, that team is unbeatable. I mean, that team will be up in a hurry, 25, 27-0 quick. So just don't count those boys out.
I agree that when
I will
Sorry,
continue
go
to
ahead,
count them out every single year until they prove me wrong. Dak won't make, similar to how Brandon
Yeah.
Staley will screw it up, Dak will screw it up. So
I agree with that. I agree more with Evan only because it actually bothers me that with the amount of talent they've wasted over the last like decade. I mean, whether it was the Romo Cowboys, whether it's the Dak Prescott Cowboys, like they've had so much talent filtered through that organization. We're talking like the Des Bryants and DeMarco Murray's all the way to like nowadays with the CeeDee Lambs and the Micah Parsons. Like, how do you have this much talent and you can never win one big game? Like, this team cannot buy a playoff win, and if they do, it's usually like they're heavily favorited, whatever it is. They can barely make the playoffs every year. I just like it's starting to irk me a lot. It feels like Dallas and UT have a lot in common. Like they're just teams that something about the Texas water just isn't registering well for them. It's embarrassing to me, in my opinion. So that's why I'm with Evan on that one.
my other is Seattle. Seattle's defense is actually pretty good this year. The offense hasn't been as good as I'd like to see, but with with those receivers, I like Charbonnet a lot. I think they could win a playoff game or maybe even two.
I think the
Defense
Seahawks
just
are
got
frauds.
smoked. Just got
I know.
smoked by the Baltimore Ravens.
Bad timing, but I still think they're a good team.
I actually think the Seahawks are frauds this year. I think
I
straight
think
up
so.
frauds this year. I think
think so.
last year Geno was amazing, and I don't want to take anything away from him, but Geno looks nothing like he did last year. And if Geno is not playing to the caliber he played last year, this team is not going to succeed because their defense is good, not great, and their weapons are good. But if Geno's not playing well, they're not doing anything. Like they're going to get smoked by every good team they play. That's the way I
agree.
look at it.
I think, Geno hasn't been very good, but he can turn it around.
And C.J. Stroud against the Buccaneers throws 5 touchdowns. Evan, and you still lost in fantasy. I don't understand it, man. C.J. Stroud had like 52 points in fantasy, but I'm not sure if you had any thoughts on that game because he played remarkable.
Yeah, see, I think Cy and I were watching it together. What did I say? I think Cy said this time next year we'll be saying that Stroud is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I think he's going to pass Trevor Lawrence. I think he's going to be past Justin Herbert. Like, I think this dude is elite character too. Just a terrific kid. I love CJ Stroud. That game was, just an electric game. He has solid weapons that are kind of like growing with him as well. Tank Dell had a big game. So I'm pro CJ Stroud. And, I'm not going to my fantasy performance was kind of centered around his massive game, but hey, I put up 122. I just got to tip the cap to you for your entire team being on bye and managing to knock me off. It's honestly a brutal blow to my comeback hopes after starting poorly. If I could have snuck this one out, I feel like I'd be in good shape. So just a brutal blow and a big win for you coming in at 4th place. And, you've got a shop. So we're going to have to pick up the pieces and try and make it. But, yeah.
We already got three of the Seams teams in contention right now. I'll flex a little bit too. My team be looking real nice right now. We're top 3. And I got a little matchup against number 2 Garrett this week, and I expect to go get a W. And then I got Patrick next week, so I'm trying to go get that 1 seed in the next couple weeks. So Zebo, let's hold it down. But Evan, we're rooting for you, man, because Alex has claimed one of our seam spots in that league, and he's in the playoffs right now too. The A and Seams is hanging around, so we're rooting for you, man.
Yeah, I got Alex this week, so big matchup. I can jump him this week. So we still got a shot, but
I'm rooting for you, man. We're rooting for you. I will also say, on the subject of you guys bringing up C.J. Stroud in that game, literally, like, was such a veteran game, it is stupid. Like, his ability to stay poised with the way his defense was letting up points and just answer the mail every single time. And the Bucs defense is not something to sleep on. Like, that is a good defense. Like, they're not, like, they can pressure. The Houston offensive line isn't great. And Tank Dell, Nico Collins, they got some good weapons out there, young guys. And I will also say this, like, it's such a bummer as a Colts fan, like especially like for example, we played the Panthers this week. Zach, you referenced that we're able to win that game, but it's such a bummer as a Colts fan to see that our team has pieces that allow us to be competitive even when we're starting a backup, and then see Stroud eating the way that he does because with Richardson back, I am so excited about the state of the AFC South. You got Richardson, you got Stroud, you got Will Levis, who's been good the last 2 weeks, and you got Trevor Lawrence all in the same division. That's going to be a fun division. I mean, I'm not saying Will Levis is the truth. It's been 2 games, but at least it's fun right now. Like, it's going to be fun for the next 5 to 7 years if people can stay healthy to see all these young teams. But I'm just like, I love it because the South has been such like a one-team race for literally our whole lives. It was either Peyton and the Colts or it was like basically Houston for like couple of years, and it was Tennessee for a couple of years. There's really no parity. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it shakes out over the next however many years.
Next, Josh Dobbs deserves a mention for we talked about it earlier, but I just want to repeat it. For coming into that game and like pulling out a win like that. I mean, the Vikings, speaking of I don't want to call them a sleeper team. I'm not really a big Vikings fan, but I mean, just shout out Josh Dobbs. I'll leave it there. But unbelievable performance for him to do that.
Can we have our weekly Arthur Smith roast session, Zach?
I'm honestly okay with that at this point. I saw a funny meme the other day, Sai, of him running down the sidelines to call a timeout. And the caption was, Arthur Smith when he sees all of his number one or first round draft picks in at the same point in time. When Drake London and Kyle Pitts, he's like, timeout, I need to get Bijan off the field. So I thought that was pretty funny.
This man managed to lose to the Minnesota Vikings who essentially were playing, I guess it would have been their second straight quarterback, but Josh Dobbs did not take a snap from that offensive line. He was practicing on the sideline. This team is out Justin Jefferson. Cam Akers gets hurt in the middle of the game. Their defense is banged up. And somehow the Falcons managed to lose that game. And Evan was showing me a hilarious statistic about, I think it was Evan or somebody was showing me a hilarious statistic about how the Falcons recovered the ball at the 1 yard or 2 yard line. And Bijan did not come in for one snap. But Jonnu Smith got 2 snaps. It is actually hilarious. I don't know if this is some meme that Arthur Smith is playing. I don't know if he's legitimately trying to create a parody in the NFL, a joke of or whatever. Maybe this is intentional. That's the only way I can describe how a coach can be this bad, with this much talent. It's actually amazing. It's genuinely amazing.
Did you see his quote? I don't know if it was today or yesterday about Bijan.
No, what did he say?
He was talking about how he does a lot of good things, I guess outside of the play, right? Almost like Kyle Pitts, how they use him to block all the time. So he was basically hyping up Bijan's, how well he plays when he doesn't get the ball. I was rolling at that.
That's so wild.
Yeah, he must be a good pass blocker, so you can't give him the ball.
Do y'all think Josh McDaniels or Arthur Smith is worse?
No, Josh McDaniels is worse.
I agree.
Josh
is much, yeah.
Josh is not a thing.
You have to give Arthur Smith credit because he's taken a very untalented roster in Atlanta and he's made them somewhat close to 500 every year. But his decision making is terrible. It just makes you think what is going on in practice. But it doesn't just happen if it's with one player, it's probably the player issue. But Bijan is such a stand-up guy and he's got such stand-up character that it's got to be an Arthur Smith issue, and it makes sense why it would be an Arthur Smith issue because he's done the same thing with Kyle Pitts, did the same thing with Julio Jones, and does the same thing with Drake London. So there is a recipe there.
Yeah, I mean, he honestly, as a team, the team has been more successful than I think people thought the last couple of years, but he genuinely drafts these guys to be decoys. That's his offensive philosophy is to draft elite talent to be decoys so you could throw the guys that they're not expecting.
It's so weird.
I gotta give him go ahead.
No, that was good, yeah.
I gotta give him a little bit of credit though because this kind of scheming, he would have been amazing in the 1980s. He would have genuinely been such a good coach in the 1980s. That's how I feel about Arthur Smith. This guy literally calls plays he's coaching in the 80s. It's ridiculous. I'm dude, you're in the modern NFL. I respect that he's had a good floor for his team when they haven't had talent, but now it's just it's comical, dude. 1980s Arthur Smith is the GOAT, dude. I'll give him credit for that. I will say that's a good The flip though, what you guys think of the Raiders like lighting up cigars and popping champagne because Josh McDaniels got booted off the team and they got essentially a coach that people can rally around. And Zach, you got to comment on this. Did you hear about what happened with the coach that took over? I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. This guy's awesome.
Antonio Pierce. Yeah.
Did you hear about what happened with Pierce and McDaniels right before McDaniels got booted by the owner?
No, what happened?
Oh my gosh, guys, this is comical. Evan, I think I showed this to you from our buddy Arvin showed this to us in the bar. So Pierce, apparently, McDaniels asked him to give a speech to the team to help rile them up because obviously I think they were like all upset with McDaniels, so he thought Pierce could kind of help get them motivated. And so Pierce was an ex-Giant, as you know, and he tells Pierce to give the speech, and Pierce walks up in front of the whole team. And I imagine this was with some level of spite towards McDaniels. But he goes, guys, you need to treat this like this is the '06 Giants when we beat the Patriots. Like, we proved that you can win with heart, and we proved that you can win with the talent that we have in this team with the amazing playoff run that we had. And obviously Josh McDaniels was like an OC for – '06 is too far, but Josh McDaniels was an OC for the Patriots when the Giants team beat them. So he's basically like talking smack about the head coach in front of all the players, and apparently all the players were like clapping, like losing their minds, like all riled up. And then as soon as it finished, apparently Josh McDaniels walked up to Pierce and said, "Hey, don't you ever talk about the Patriots ever again." And then immediately after, Davis said peace to Josh McDaniels, and apparently the team like threw a party after McDaniels got left loose. So
I've never seen players so consistently happy about something before. When you're lighting up cigars, when you got to get your cardio up and get ready for the next week ahead. I mean, week over week, the NFL is a brutal sport, and you're sitting there just taking the cigar into your lungs, man. I mean, hey, that was a party there. They deserved it. They needed every part of that. But I've never seen so many players so consistently happy with a losing record halfway through the season, and they're lighting up cigars. Ev, what's your take?
Yeah, no, I was, it's funny because you look at it and you're like, why are they lighting up cigars after they beat the, New York Football Giants, whose starting quarterback, tore his ACL during the game, and they went to Tommy DeVito. So it's like so clearly because of how happy they are that McDaniels is gone. And the vibe has just completely changed. I mean, they won't have much to celebrate this year, but, and when you think about it, it's interesting that they had McDaniels and Antonio Pierce in the same room, like same coaching room. Like that's actually kind of surprising when you think back on it. Like, I mean, a cocky ego guy like McDaniels and, a guy that was kind of a kryptonite, so to speak. Maybe not Pierce, but the team.
Let me ask you guys this. Do you think Jimmy G starts another NFL game in his career?
I mean, I think he'll start by being a backup on some team and then having an injury and then coming in. But I don't think he will. People are going to announce him. Like, I don't think anyone's going to ever pick him up again with the intention of having Jimmy G be their starter. And if they do, it's a team that's trying to tank. That's the way I look at it. I will say this too. Like, McDaniels has gotten the biggest leash for a coach I've ever seen, who is that universally despised by his players. That is actually impressive because people forget that he used to coach the Broncos like 7-8 years ago, and there was like horror stories about how much Brandon Marshall and Jay Cutler could not stand him. And my Colts got so lucky that he totally screwed us over, and I guess ultimately helped us out. So I do want to say that. But Zach, I think Jimmy G is always going to be like he'll always be on an NFL team until he retires, but I don't think he's going to be a starter anymore. That
contract earned him a long leash. You see how much money they still have to pay him? It's a lot of money. A lot of money, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's not good.
John Gruden to Josh McDaniels. They paid like $150 million to their last two coaches. It's amazing.
They know how to pick them. They know how to pick them in Vegas / Oakland. We did pretty good. I feel like things were true to form this week for the most part. And we covered a lot in the recaps. I don't have too much else. What do you got?
What are you thinking, Ev?
I think I'm good, yeah. Unless Si's got any.
I think we'll go to picks.
Good.
All right. I don't have the full count on the recap last week, but I do believe that I won this week with a couple game advantage. So I need to do the full tally on the year, but I'm catching up to Zach. It was pretty close. I think you guys were a game or two off the pace and maybe tied. So I'm coming for you, Zebo. Coming for you. And then starting off this week, we have an absolute banger on Thursday Night Football, gentlemen. It is the Carolina Panthers and the Chicago Bears. The Bears are at 4-point favorites at home in Soldier Field. So, Zach, you want to start us off?
Yeah, is Justin Fields playing in this game?
I doubt it.
Okay, well, give me Panthers money line here. If Justin Fields is not playing, the backup for Chicago Bears is atrocious. As bad as Carolina is, I just feel like Carolina's always remotely close to victory. Well, outside of last week, I guess. But they still have a pretty good defense. You cannot say the same about Chicago. Give me Panthers money line in Chicago on Thursday.
I thought I saw that. I thought maybe I heard that Fields was playing. Regardless,
They still have him as limited, which for me feels tough with a 48-hour turnaround. Like if it was a Sunday game, I think he would have a much better chance. But yeah, it's day to day, so maybe.
Well, I think. Well, you know what? I'm gonna just lean that the Bears. I'll just go Bears money line. I won't go spread. If they have Fields, I would pick spread. But I'm gonna go Bears money line because their defense has been very good against not so great teams. So I think the Panthers will take a couple sacks and Bryce Young will be pressured the whole game. So I'm gonna go Bears money line.
All right, I'll say Bears win but no cover as well. Moving on to Sunday, we have another Frankfurt game. We got Colts at Patriots, a bit of a classic game here. Spread is Indianapolis -2 for the neutral site. I will take the Colts to win and cover. Zach?
Colts win and cover.
Colts win and cover.
Very good. Next game is Houston at Cincinnati. Spread is Cincinnati -7 at home. Cy, what do you got?
Cincy win and actually cover.
Zach?
Cincy win and cover. I think that defensive back unit is going to be nightmarish for C.J. Stroud in this one.
That's tough. Houston's much better at home, but I like where the offense is at after getting Tank Dell back. Tough one. I'll say Houston, maybe a backdoor cover or something. I'll say they cover the 7. Next game, Green Bay at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a 3-point favorite at home. I like Pittsburgh to win and cover for sure here. Cy?
Yeah.
I don't want to say Pittsburgh win and cover because I don't want to bet Pittsburgh this week, but I'll go Pittsburgh win and cover. That's fine.
Zach?
Pittsburgh win and cover.
Good team at home. Green Bay is horrible.
So much, just so you guys know.
Jordan Love is horrible. Next game is Will Levis's Tennessee Titans at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay is a 1.5-point favorite at home. Cy, start with you.
I'm going to go Tampa Bay wins and covers, just because it's on the
Zach?
This is actually one of my favorite spreads so far. Tampa Bay win and cover. Tampa Bay got abused defensively. A bunch of veterans. They're going to pull it together in the locker room, and I think Will Levis is going to have a nightmarish day.
I like your assessment, Zach. Tampa Bay win and cover. Next game, Cleveland at Baltimore. Fun divisional game. Baltimore is a 6-point favorite at home. I like Cleveland to cover this. Cleveland, sneaky. We didn't mention them as a sleeper team, but they are not a bad team if they get good quarterback play. Good physical run game, good defense. I'll say it's a divisional game. I think it'll be a bruising type game. Cleveland keeps it close but loses.
Same here.
Yeah, I'll give Baltimore a win. I'll give them the cover actually, but barely. So it's not like a hot bet for me or anything.
All right. Next game, San Francisco at Jacksonville. In Duval. San Francisco is actually a 3-point favorite on the road coming off the bye week. Let's go to Zach.
Now, this is my favorite matchup of the week. This is really, really challenging because this is going to test how good the Jaguars are. Jaguars they've lost to 2 pretty good teams. I know they took the L to Kansas City at home. I'm going to say the Jacksonville Jaguars take the L to the 49ers at home as well. Give me 49ers win, and I think that's an appropriate spread, but I'll say 49ers cover.
Cy?
Win and cover for 49ers. I agree. I think the 49ers are going to bounce back.
Trent Williams is back.
Tebow Samuel's back too.
No Trent Williams yet. Jags money line. Next game, Saints at Vikings. Josh Dobbs, presumably under center. New Orleans is a 2.5-point favorite on the road. Whoo! Minnesota money line. Cy?
Give me Sean Payton's son with 2 touchdowns and the Saints covering.
Saints win and cover. This is my favorite spread I've seen all week.
Yeah, Evan, you're wrecking us on this one, man.
The Saints aren't very good, dude.
They're definitely better than the Vikings. We'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
The Vikings team holistically isn't bad. And Josh Dobbs, sneaky. Next game, Atlanta at Arizona. Atlanta is a 1-point favorite on the road. Kyler Murray will be back. That is why. So let's go to Cy first.
Why do it? Why does this have to be him? I don't ever want to pick Arthur Smith winning a game again in his life. But I'm not picking Arizona the week Kyler gets back because he's going to need some time. I guess I'm going Atlanta win and cover. Oh my gosh, I hate this so much.
I like this spread quite a bit because guess what, gents? I believe there's a new Call of Duty dropping this weekend. Can you guys confirm? Do you guys know?
I don't know, but if there is a Call of Duty, this is now my favorite spread of the week.
Yeah.
Officially my favorite spread of the week. Arthur Smith all day, baby. 1980s Arthur Smith for the win this weekend.
Yeah, it maybe isn't like a full new version or whatever. Maybe there's some new maps dropping or whatever. I don't know. I don't think we're big Call of Duty guys, but yeah, first game back off the injury for Kyler. Call of Duty weekend, no chance. Falcons by 10, which for them is like 1 million. I'm actually shocked by that spread, to be honest with you. Next game, Lions at Chargers. This is an awesome game. Detroit is a 2.5-point favorite on the road. Chargers money line.
Wow, Evan, that is a shock to hear from you. I agree with you, though. Chargers money line.
Chargers money line as well for me.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Next game, we got the Giants at the Cowboys. A little NFC East action. Tommy DeVito at the helm. Cowboys are 16.5-point favorites. Cowboys win and cover, and I like it.
Yes.
Can we please bet the cover on this one? Like, Danny DeVito's son or brother is about to get literally. Oh my gosh, this man is going to be carried across the field through Micah Parsons. I don't even know what to say. Right, this is terrible. Actually, I want this cover. It's the best bet of the week. 16.5 down.
I like this spread. Last 4 o'clock game. We went to everyone, right? Yeah, we all. Yeah. Commanders at Seahawks. This is a sneaky big game. Seahawks are 6.5-point favorites at home. Cy.
I really like the Commanders covering. I believe that the 12-man in Seattle going across the country is going to be really hard for y'all to go pull this one out. But I think 6.5 is high. That's high especially with how well Sam Howell played last week. So I will go Commanders. I'll go Seahawks win, but definitely no cover.
Zach?
Couldn't agree more with Cy's assessment. I think Seattle wins, but they do not cover that spread. It's going to be a close game. Close game.
Yeah, I think that's the way to play this one for sure. I would take Commanders money line, but I don't want to lose ground on the Commanders potentially in the picks board. So I'll just copy you guys. Good strategy there. Sunday Night Football, Jets at Raiders. We can all get to bed early, which is nice for once. The Jets are 1.5-point favorites on the road. Ooh. Raiders win. That's what I'm going to go with.
I might have to agree with you. I'm going to go Pierce and the Raiders get a dub this week.
Sorry, boys. I'm going with the Jets. You normally see with these head coaches that get fired, they play really great that initial week.
True.
There's a lot of pent-up excitement. Then they kind of deviate back to the mean. I'm going to go Jets here. They're the better football team.
Cool. I like that.
Tough one. Zach's got good analysis today. I like it. Monday Night Football, Broncos at Bills. Oh, another one we can skip. That's good. The Bills are 7.5-point favorites at home. I'll say the Broncos cover it. Whatever.
Can we tease this to Bills win by 10.5? This is not a divisional game. The Broncos are going to absolutely dish. You said they're in Buffalo?
Yeah.
They're playing in Buffalo, Evan.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson is going to Buffalo to play, and you think he's going to cover that spread?
The Broncos are playing way better lately. The Bills genuinely are not good, as I said earlier. They are a average at best football team.
You are the biggest Broncos hater I've ever met in my life. And this Bills team decimated your Commanders, who are way better than the Broncos, at home. And you're telling me, okay, whatever. We'll talk about this later. The Bills by infinite amount, like a million. Bills by a million.
You know what happened last time we said that, guys? They almost lost to the Bucks at home. So
The Bills by a million.
the Bills
Bills by
are
a million as well.
well. You guys can bet it out of your personal accounts. We ain't having it in this forum. That's all we got. Perhaps more scattered. I usually prepare my picks, so we'll see how it goes when I don't prepare my picks board this week. But any last words, gentlemen?
Nothing for me.
That's it. Great episode. Oh, actually, let's give a quick shout out to Carson Wentz. Monahan said he's living his Nick Foles era. He is back in the league, and he'll be playing for the Los Angeles Rams. Shout out Carson Wentz, my ex-Colt.
He'll be watching for the Los Angeles Rams, but
Zach,
I guess if Stafford can't play, then yeah. Who's the back? Who's the Brett Rippon? Mark Rippon? No, Mark won a Super Bowl.
Brett Rippon might be worse than Danny DeVito's brother, dude. They might have to start Wentz.
I'd like to see that game. We'll see if they can get him going after the bye. All right. I think we've had enough. That was Mondays Down South.
That's Monday.
Take care, boys.